All right.
Let it go on the record, Councilwoman Coburn wants the music louder.
All right. Going to call this meeting to order. Ms. Fazzoni, please call roll.
Councilmember Coburn?
Yes.
Councilman Register?
Yes, ma'am.
Vice Mayor Jarman?
Yes, ma'am.
Councilman Casto?
Yes, ma'am.
Mayor Tadmer?
Yes, ma'am. First up is a presentation on the beach flag system by Chief Ray Morgan. Chief, did we get the projector working? All right. All right. Last minute IT work. Good job.
Mayor, Council, I'm going to let Director Paul do the presentation today since this is his expert field and division. I just want to say I appreciate the opportunity to engage with you on how we can help make our beaches safer. So with that, I'll turn it over to Director Paul.
Thank you, Chief. Director Paul.
Mayor, Council, good afternoon. So my name is Daryl Paul, I'm Beach Safety Director of Panama City Beach Fire Rescue. Been an open water lifeguard for a little over a decade now, fireman for a little just as long. Been a firefighter paramedic for the city of Panama City Beach for about 6 years now. But just to roll you through the slide. Whoop, takes the wrong way. There we go. Great. So my process of how I judge how hazardous the rip currents are every day is that every morning I visit the shoreline. I drive up and down the beach every morning from Monday to Monday, every day. I visit various beaches. Depending on the conditions, the wind, and what the direction of the swell, how everything's coming in, or a tide shift, I just check out various spots. Our flag system is a standardized system. It's created by the International Life-Saving Federation, and then the United States Life-Saving Association, which is the governing body for open water lifeguarding, adopted that system, and they include it into our training for our open water lifeguards. The first flag is a yellow flag. It's a medium hazard. This is all pertaining to rip currents. We fly our flags based off of rip currents, not so much wave height, wave action, things like that. Single red flag means it's a high rip current hazard. Double red means the water's closed to the public. Purple is for marine pests such as jellyfish. And all of this here that you see is directly off of the International Life-Saving Federation's website for how they define the flags and their use. Also, the pictures, how they're depicted, the double red with a single red and a no swimmer flag depicted beneath it. Green flags. So straight off of the International Life-Saving Federation's website is their statement on green flags. In some areas of the U.S., green flags are flown to indicate calm and mild conditions. The International Life-Saving Federation considered this carefully and decided not to adopt the green flag. The primary reason is the fact that there is always a potential hazard present in that the view that it is best to notify people when conditions are unusually changing, rather than suggest that they are ever completely safe. Rip currents can form anywhere at any time, and that has a lot to do with our sand. Our sand is real fine and loose. As waves build up and hit the sandbar, it moves sand away and creates deep spots. In the picture on the left here, you see a green flag flying, and you see pretty calm conditions, what most people would generally call a green flag day. On the picture to your right, you have pretty much mirrored the same conditions here. You have a shallow sandbar, a deep spot, and then a shallow sandbar on the either side. You can see those with waves breaking across the sandbar. Just to attest that rip currents will always be present and there's always a hazard, this picture was immediately taken after our crews entered the water and rescued a 10-year-old boy. So they made a rescue, and a concerning note about this picture is that even though our crews entered the water, made the rescue, people still walked right by us and got back into the rip current. So this is our guideline on yellow flags. On the flag system, about how we work it every morning, and it's a guideline. We can move around with it best we can. And we always try to fly to the highest hazard in the beach every morning. Let's see. I'm sorry. This button here. Every morning, I collaborate with my counterpart at the sheriff's office. They have a surf patrol that works the far end of the county on the east and west. And I call him every morning, and we talk about conditions, the weather. We talk about the tide, what the tide's doing. We talk about staffing in case we need like mutual aid resources requested, things like that. And him and I work together on the best flag call for the entire island. Our coverage, we staff lifeguards at the Russell Field City Pier and at a private partnership at Boardwalk from April 1st to September 31st. We have roving patrols spanning 9.6 miles. In 2023, our lifeguards were able to complete 237 rescues, 2,542 public assists. A public assist is where the lifeguard proactively entered the water and prevented a rescue from happening. So prevented the emergency in the first place. A preventative action, 172,051. That's where the lifeguard noticed somebody was setting up their beach, like their beach towel or their tent umbrella in front of a rip, or he saw them moving towards a rip. He decided to proactively grab those people and move them to a safer place to be. 37 medicals and 6,073 calls of service. Every morning I'm checking the weather forecast, I'm checking the surf forecast. I always check the tide charts, and I collaborate with NOAA and the National Weather Service, and I utilize the NOAA's 5-day rip current matrix, and this is what it looks like here on the right side of the screen. But NOAA always puts out this, they're gauging their data off of buoys and weather to kind of forecast the rip currents in your area. So I always take that into account. I take the tide charts into account, the wind, the surf forecast, everything. But still, every morning, you have to go down to the shoreline and you have to put eyes on it. Also, our lifeguards every morning get down to the city pier. Sometimes we'll go to other parts of the beach to get in the water, and we actually get a physical test in the rip currents. We try to see how strong they're pulling at that time of day, at where we are in our tide shift, and then we try to gauge where we'll be closer to the end of the day. Yep, it's a multi-agency collaborative effort here. We all work together. Panama City Beach, Bay County, SO, the Emerald Coast Life Saving Association, which is compiled up of all the beach safety agencies across the Emerald Coast, from Orange Beach, Gulf Shores, Alabama, all the way to us. We're all in like this group chat, and we all try to talk together about, if there's a major storm or something in the Gulf moving in, we all try to, collaborate our efforts together, work together. NOAA, National Weather Service, and Bay County Emergency Services. How we notify the community is the major thing is Alert Bay. We post our flag conditions, which will retain more to what our rip currents are doing for the day on the city website, social media, and local news media. Alert Bay has really proven to be the greatest asset tool for communication to the community, but it requires people to subscribe to the text alert. If you subscribe to the text alert, you just need to text PCB flags to 888-777. Every morning you'll get a daily text alert of our flag system and what it's doing for the day. A little bit about rip currents is that how they work here. You've got two shallow sandbars, okay? And you'll have a deep spot. As waves build up and spill over onto the sandbar, it moves the sand away, creating that deep spot, okay? As waves wash into shore, the water washes up onto the shoreline and it recedes back out to the sea. It's going to focus through that deep spot. You have to watch your tide shift. So anything over a foot draws concern for me. So as your tide starts to shift down throughout the day, if you're at high tide and you gauge your rip currents in the morning, as your tide is shifting, you have this less space across the shallow sandbar, but you still have the same amount of volume of water coming in that's going to wash up and focus out. So your rip currents are going to get stronger throughout the day. And like I said, rip currents can form anywhere at any time. So that's all I got there for that. You got any questions for me?
Yeah, Director Paul, how often does the flag change during the day?
Right, so we always try to fly to the highest hazard in the area. So say like more over to the beach, it may be yellow flag conditions, but over here we may have some developed rip currents. We always try to fly to that. So you may have a single red, so we'll fly uniformity and consistency. We'll fly the same flag across the 18 miles of beach for the whole island. When we fly a flag, and for me, if we start getting a few water rescue calls, okay, and they're consistent and they're pretty close together, that's telling me that the rip currents are now a little more developed, and the conditions that are present are beyond the capabilities of the individuals on the shore and the people in the water. So that in order to prevent a drowning, prevent an incident, and prevent anything bad from happening for our first responders, we'll upgrade to double reds.
Okay, so do you know how frequent, because I've noticed that's been happening a decent amount recently.
Right. I don't have a number for you how
Yeah.
frequent it is. But
It was a
because
surprise question, so.
You always gotta, I'm always looking out for that in case we do need to upgrade.
Yeah. One other question, do you think we should change our warning signage if we're never going to fly a green flag?
Yeah, I think our information needs to be consistent. The information that's along the boardwalks and anything that's posted is very important to me. I think it all should be consistent, even how we fly the flags. It should, when you fly a double red flag, you should have a solid red with the no swimmer beneath it. We shouldn't mix the two. It needs to be consistent.
Okay, agree. Questions from council?
Yeah, I just want to clarify one thing with the alert bay warnings. Isn't there a geofence that you guys, when you go to double red, that you're not required to be signed up for alert bay to get that alert?
I believe they do have a geofence capability, but
Okay.
I'm not in charge of the geofence.
Are we utilizing that? I believe we are. I've seen a lot of my guests that I know, and I would assume at the hotel that are getting that alert around the pool deck, they're not signed up for alert bay or
Yep.
getting that because they're inside of that geofenced area.
Yep.
Does anybody have an answer for that?
TDC sends that out for the geofencing.
Okay.
If you're in that
fantastic.
geo area, you'll get the alert.
Sure. And are you, when you're flying a flag in the morning, what I'm hearing you say is you're taking into account the coastal sea breeze pickup in the afternoon that we always are accustomed to?
I always try to. I try to
Okay.
make the best educated flag call for the information that's presented to me at the time, which is a weather forecast. You always
Correct.
have to take that with a grain of salt. And then what I see in front of me in the moment.
Because it's time consuming for you guys to change. How many flags do we have inside the city limits, flagpoles?
The city of Panama City Beach has 28. We changed 26.
Okay,
There's a few at the county pier that the county guards take care of.
okay.
So, but yeah, we take care of 26 flagpoles.
And how long would you say it takes your team to change those and upgrade those?
We get about 45 minutes.
Okay,
30
45 minutes.
if we
Okay.
move them pretty fast.
Yeah, absolutely. 45 minutes is a long time when rip currents develop. And okay, fantastic. Great. Thank you. I appreciate everything you do. Thank you.
Thanks.
Yes, Ms. Cole?
Is there a way to mark the rip currents
Sure.
so that the tourists could be better informed that there is a possible rip current in this area? I don't know if we want to say affirmative, but
Yeah, so the flag system is the great secondary tool utilized by the lifeguard. And lifeguards use local swim flags to mark rip currents. It's just like a no swimmer flag. It's just a single no swimmer, and we'll go to one side of the rip, post it, go to the other side, post it. And as we're making our public contacts and preventative actions, we'll point at that area and say no swimming between these two flags.
okay, and we are doing that now.
At guarded beaches, we found that if you start carrying out these flags, they can be very costly. And as you stake them and put them down, they end up being stolen, and you don't get them back. They turn into great souvenirs. So, and each one is about $100, each flag.
Thank you.
Do you see rips form more prevalent during a certain time of the year? Just, it's constant.
Yeah, it's,
Okay.
rip currents can form anywhere at any time, and it's all dependent on the conditions that are leading up to that day. And in our area, along the Emerald Coast, our rip currents can linger. So if you've noticed that we'll fly a few days of double red flags. The first day will usually be pretty rough, and then as the conditions are calming down and receding, we'll keep our double reds up, and then even slowly downgrade into a single red, okay? And then from there, because our rip currents will linger. And the issue that's really prevalent is that when people visit our shoreline, they'll see the surf. It looks really calm. It looks very inviting. It's clear blue skies. It looks really nice. But the rip currents are still working. You really only need about 3 to 5 mile-an-hour winds coming out of the south, southwest, southeast to really power a rip current. Our rip currents are formed by wave action that moves sand away out of the shallow sandbars, make deep spots. But as the wind pushes the waves, as the wind creates these waves and pushes the water up onto the shoreline, it recedes back out. So your rip currents will always be powered. They'll always be working. They don't work off of a time set interval like you would see at other beaches. So your rip currents are always going to be working until the wind dies or shifts.
Makes sense. You see less rip currents with a north wind than you would a wind coming out of the south, pushing water up onto the beach?
Yeah, so the north wind will, typically the north wind will shift out of the north and it'll lay the surf down. It'll look really flat. On that green flag day, you would probably have a north wind that makes the water look that flat. But there's still a little bit of you can't notice it, but there's still a swell there's water still moving, okay? There's still currents moving. So even then on a north wind day, your rip currents will still work. And
Right.
on those days, the calmer days are the ones that we typically get most of our rescues.
Yeah, because even offshore, I mean, really the north wind is just laying down right there, the first 500 yards of the beach
Right.
that we can see.
Yep.
And most of our north winds are seasonally during the wintertime, I would imagine.
We'll get north winds in the morning,
Okay.
even in the summer, and then as like the temperature over the land and over the sea changes, your wind will shift back onto land.
That's like coastal sea breeze.
You'll have a sea breeze, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay.
Daryl, just so the public will know, and I think most of you guys do know this, but we have 3 public places on the beach where lifeguards are provided: the city pier, the county pier, and Rick Seltzer Park. And there's a couple other private resorts here, Holiday Inn and Boardwalks, participating in our public-private partnership. Is that correct? I mean, is that the only public? I don't think State Park provides lifeguards either, do they? Or do
The
they?
City of Panama City Beach staffs lifeguards at the Russell Field City Pier. We have a private partnership with Boardwalk. That goes from April through September. The county does staff lifeguards at the county pier, and I believe they do staff lifeguards at the Rick Seltzer Park.
So you use your rovers to cover the areas in between those on four-wheelers?
Sure.
And how many guards do you currently have?
Right, so on a roving patrol, I don't consider any of those beaches that's in a roving patrol a guarded beach, because you can't guarantee that
It
guard's
takes
gonna
too
be
long
placed
for them
well.
to get there when somebody gets in trouble.
Sure,
doesn't it?
we have 9 full-time lifeguards, that includes myself, and currently at this point, 6 seasonals.
In your opinion, do you have enough lifeguards to do your job effectively?
No, he doesn't.
No.
What was that? I'm
No,
sorry.
you don't.
Not
think-
trying to
I
put
think
you on
that
the
the-
spot, but
Yeah.
how many, have you guys done a plan? I was talking to Dan Rowe today with the TDC, and he suggested the city and the county do a plan to let him know, and the TDC is contributing some more money. A couple of these guys up here sat on that board, and they're going to give us some more money for lifeguards, but he did mention a plan, so he would know, what you guys being the professionals are recommending, not that he would be able to provide all of them 1 year, but maybe that's a goal that we could reach. But has there been a plan done that you're aware of recently? I know back in the day, they did one, and they didn't go through with it. It was too expensive to provide, and it was tourists mostly that was drowning, and the council at the time didn't feel like it was fair to tax with an ad valorem tax the local people that are not drowning. It's from the data that I saw that you guys collected, it's 90% tourists that are drowning. It's not
Sure.
local people.
And with our transient population, the real burden upon the lifeguard is just, we're preventative in nature. We're proactive. We try to prevent the rescue or the emergency from happening in the first place. So we're trying to talk to as many people as we can. I believe in 2023, we talked to 1.1 million people out of a staff of, at that time, it was 8, that included me. But we talked to a lot of people. There are various plans that I believe could work for the city. Different methods, different tactics. We don't have to reinvent the wheel, I believe, but yeah. In the presence of a USLA trained lifeguard, you have a 1 in 18 million chance of drowning in front of a properly trained United States Life Saving Association accredited lifeguard.
How many feet apart do they recommend the lifeguards?
The industry standard is a lifeguard every 1/8 of a mile. But even with that industry standard, that's not set by OSHA, that's not set by NFPA or anything like that. That's just what all the other United States Life Saving Association accredited agencies, we all collaborate together across the country, and we talk about our staffing, and that is just the number that we found works.
Right.
A lifeguard every 1/8 of a mile. For our shoreline, we can employ different tactics. We can employ maybe a wider spacing that could work for us. Even the agencies that try to meet that standard can't maintain that standard of a lifeguard every 1/8 of a mile.
Maybe, Drew, you may know, do we have a plan, an updated plan that we could get to Dan? Or you could direct staff to try to take the old one, maybe dust it off, and we got a lot more people here now. It may be that we need more, but he did ask for a plan today when I was talking to him, so maybe we try to get him one.
Yeah,
I'm
that's something-
asking way too many questions, let some of these other people talk.
I think that's worth discussing it a little bit. Director Paul, can you talk about the importance of a lifeguarded beach versus the roving patrols that you're doing now, and what the difference is in the way the lifeguards act in a lifeguarded beach versus the roving patrols?
Sure. So, like I said before, the very nature of a lifeguard is to be proactive and preventative. To first make contact with individuals visiting your beach, being that person on the sand with the community outreach that's going to warn you of a rip current, educate you on what a rip current is, tell you where the safe place to swim is. As far as a roving patrol, our lifeguards, when sometimes staffing permits, we may have one roving patrol for the entire city proper. Unfortunate as it is, that puts a lot of work on that one lifeguard to make a lot of public contacts and a lot of preventative actions. And like I said, rip currents could form anywhere at any time. And if you Google image our shoreline a lot, you'll see just rips, 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 rips. So that makes up for a tough day. I'm sorry, what was the rest of your question?
I mean,
The importance of a lifeguard versus a roving patrol.
Yeah.
Right, yeah, so, long story short, I could talk to you all day about that, but the lifeguard's
Well,
gonna
we
be
have
there
about
to
10
be,
minutes, so.
the lifeguard's gonna be there to be proactive, not like a reactive service. We're very proactive. You shouldn't see rescues at a lifeguarded beach. You should really only see public assist and preventative actions.
So lifeguarded beaches are just a different animal than the roving patrols we have now. Right, roving patrols we have now almost seem like a bandage. You don't want to put words in your mouth, but we're doing what we can with them.
Right.
But I've seen, yeah, a patrol go by, tell someone to get out of the water, do some education, and then as soon as they leave, they're back in.
Yes, that's currently our struggle,
Yeah.
every day.
Are there any hot spots or any places on the beach that have a decent amount more population than others that would maybe make good options for additional lifeguarded beaches?
Yes, I printed out a heat map off of our analytics collection software through Watchtower. It's a great software. It's tailored, made specifically for lifeguards, and it uploads all your stats to the USLA. It's great. And it even prints you out a heat map and a zone map of what everything you do. But I printed that out. It was pretty much the whole shoreline was red. So we're everywhere.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then one more before I toss it off. If our flag, am I correct in understanding that our flag system is almost entirely based on rip currents? Was that a correct understanding of your
Yes.
statement? So should we maybe change our, because it talks about high surf or strong currents, or, you know, if we're based entirely on rip currents, I understand this is standard signage that we're pulling, but we don't have a green flag, and it's based on rip currents. Maybe focusing the signage on rip currents rather than this generic language may make sense.
Right. So the definitions were based off of the International Life-Saving Federation's definition. They set the definition, and then the USLA pulls that definition and makes it available for lifeguard training for our lifeguards. They haven't adopted the green flag. So the USLA mirrors that statement. So we mirror the USLA because we're accredited through them. As far as changing the verbiage, I really stress that the information that's present needs to be consistent across the board, even how you fly the flags, everything needs to be consistent. I've also noticed, I've just spent a day watching people walk down the beach. I just faced the access and I watched them walk, and our sand is very unique in a way that it's just unique. It's not like any other sand anywhere else on a beach. So when people first come in contact with our beach, they're looking down at their feet, you know, because they're trying to keep their footing, or they're just amazed by our sand. But our signs are up like this, okay? But their eyes are looking down, and our flags are really high. We need our flags high so that you can see them because they're spaced out, right?
No, sir.
But usually you'll see like the dad carrying all the stuff, and he's got his eye on a spot on the shoreline that he's just trying to get all of his coolers in his bags and stuff to. And then everybody else is looking down at the sand. So they tend to miss the signs. They tend to miss it. And even with this, you'll get to a point where it's like sign pollution. You just get too many signs. And the most important sign, the rip current sign, is, you know, sometimes really low to the sand, and like even dune grass is covering it sometimes. So the sign that you really need them to pay attention to is, you know, not prominent in the field of view.
Yeah.
We've got a couple more.
Yeah, Councilmember Coburn and then Councilman Register.
Yes, based on your relationships with other people that are doing your job in other communities, are there any best practices that we can adopt that would work for us that come to mind?
We are a United States Life-Saving Association accredited agency. We follow their guidelines and recommendations for what they believe, for the standards and recommendations they set forth for open water lifeguarding. What other agencies are doing is specific to their shoreline. The USLA encourages you to assess your shoreline, assess your area, and operate in the manner that's best for your area. So if you visit a beach, if you visit somewhere else in the country, or even down South Florida, conditions could be greatly different there. Specific hazards could be greatly different there than what we face here. So there's probably a few things that you can pull from, like maybe some policies, but we really need to stay specific and tailored for our area, because we're still unique in a lot of ways here.
Thank you. I think we just need to think out of the box here a little bit and see if we can't come up with some strategies that we can employ that would help your folks do their job.
Sure.
Councilman Register.
In regards to changing the signage, possibly, I mean, I know we still have undertow here as well, and wave height that can knock people off balance that doesn't have to do with a rip current. So I don't know, is that part of the signage? Don't we have some undertow, or do we have wave heights that can knock people, or no?
No, so undertow is just kind of a misname for
For a rip current?
Yeah,
Okay.
there's nothing out here that's going to actually grab you and pull you down.
Okay.
We do have a thing as a rip tide, but that's going to be over at like inlets or passes, like at the St. Andrews Pass.
Perfect.
You have a bottleneck where you have the two jetties, and as the tide goes in and out, you'll have a rip formed by a tide. And it's actually pretty strong. If you've ever like been snorkeling or scuba diving around there, around the jetties, you'll experience a rip tide if you're not timing it right. But along our shoreline in Panama City Beach proper, our greatest hazard is rip currents. So that's why we fly the flags based off of the hazard, not really waves.
Well, sounds to me like the mayor has a great idea to uniform our signage, though, to make it based around rip currents.
I'm always for simple, concise, uniform signage.
Well, one other thing I'm hearing a lot of you say is preventative actions. Would you say short of a fully funded lifeguard program, preventative actions would be the next best step to prevent drownings? Is more preventative actions?
Sure. So,
More education, more
Yeah.
preventative action?
yes, that's all great. Smoke alarms, sprinkler systems, and fire detector systems save more lives than firemen. Security cameras lead to more successful prosecutions than attorneys and police officers. No flag, sign, refrigerator magnet, TV commercial ever actually stood on the shoreline and made a public contact with somebody and said, don't swim right here, this is a rip current, let me educate you on this rip current, and actually point it out to them, explain the science behind it. What our lifeguards, how our lifeguards speak and explain things to people is very important to me. And we train on that. How are we going to explain what we're going to explain and how we're going to tell them where to go and where to move.
But that takes time, right? I mean, each interaction takes
It can
time.
take up time, but at a guarded beach, when you have backup, when you have overwatch with a partner, lifeguards work best in a team.
Right.
So not really so much as single, like when you would have a roving patrol. We try to put a partner with that if the vehicle will accommodate a second person, simply because we've just learned that lifeguards work best as a team.
Fantastic. Good.
All right, last one. From your metrics, less rescues at our guarded beaches?
Yes, that is our standard, is there shouldn't be rescues at a guarded
Right.
beach.
And then you would attribute the fact that we have less need for rescues at guarded beaches due to the preventative
Nature of the
actions
lifeguard.
that they're able to take there? Okay.
You good? Okay. Director Paul?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. So we are tight on time for this meeting. We have to start the next meeting at 5.
Yes.
We're going to have a discussion here. I know there were some folks who had reached out ahead of time to do public comment. I'm only going to allow just a few public comments on this subject right now. The rest of the public comments can happen during public comment period in the next meeting. It'll be pretty quick, that we have a short presentation, but we just the way of running this meeting, we got to end this one on time so that we start this next one for legal purposes. So for the folks who want to have public comment, could you raise your hand? Okay. I know Mr. Hill?
Yes, sir.
Go ahead. And I'm going to prioritize people who have not recently spoken to the city council on beach safety issues. If we have someone new here who's providing new information, they're going to be prioritized.
Thank you. I will take just a minute. I'm on here on behalf of the Rotary Clubs here in Bay County, both in Panama City Beach, and Lynn Haven. Councilman, thank you for listening to me, Mayor. You are right. We need to think outside of the box, but we don't need to just think. We need to have action. And thoughts and prayers for victims of drowning are not enough. We have to do more. The Rotary Clubs in Bay County stand ready to partner with you guys, with the professionals that are involved with these rescues, on something called public rescue tubes. I've got a handout I would love to give you guys and show you. These tubes are already in place in over 700 locations around U.S. and Canada. There have been 400 known rescues by private citizens. They're similar to what a lifeguard does use. There are 16 tubes installed in Navarre. There's no loss of life where those tubes have been installed. Perdido Key has 4 tubes. Pensacola has 5 tubes. These buoys, if you will, are placed along the crossovers. The Rotary Club here in Bay County is ready to fund this program. There are foundations, there are businesses, for Pete's sake, that would stand behind this to keep, when someone is destructive or whatever, to replace those tubes. One of the things that people are mindful of and fearful of is liability and risk. And I can tell you that I've talked to a number of attorneys, and they say that risk is very minimal. But the second approach that I think this body and our county can get behind is to change the Good Samaritan laws in the state of Florida with a very minor change. The state of Hawaii has installed these tubes, and they did a Good Samaritan law change. The packet that I'm going to provide you today has the Florida language and it has the Hawaii language, and it's very simple. It's very simple. It protects the private citizens that have partnered with you guys to provide lifeguards, and it protects the property owners and the person going out to try to rescue someone. We're not advocating for people to go into dangerous waters, but the truth is that if you invite someone down here and they go into the water and they get in trouble, most likely you're going to go in and try to rescue them. And we've seen it time and time again where people go to rescue someone and they themselves end up drowning. And so these tubes could provide a backup, an assistance until help can get there. And so I'm asking and imploring you to check this out. The Rotary Clubs here in Bay County stand ready to partner with you to make this happen.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Hill. We only have time for one more. So who else was Mr. White? Yep, Mr. White.
Mayor?
And, yeah,
May we get a copy of the handout now, please?
I think that's reasonable. In the meantime, Mr. Davis, in terms of liability, could you clarify what city liability would be for these tubes?
For providing the tubes?
Yeah.
I mean, I think the liability was very minimal. I think, as Mr. Hill said, liability on the rescuer, the private rescuer, that's a different analysis, but for the city's liability, I think it would be fairly minimal.
Okay. All right. Please, sir.
Thank you. My name's Alan White. I'm from Panama City, born and raised here. Thank you for your time. We've been working on a program for a little over a decade. For the very reason we're here today. Can't get into a lot of detail on it because we just don't have enough time. One thing I'd like to say is that we've researched rip current drownings around the world, from Macomb Bay, England, all up and down the east, west coast. We understand how the rip current works. And a Louisiana professor, Greg Stone, done a study on rip currents and what was renourishment of beaches had to add to why the rip currents has increased. Our natural sandbars, if you were born and raised here, you could walk 100 yards, 100 feet offshore and you'd be in ankle deep water. Or you go 100 yards offshore and you'd be in knee deep water. Since dredging and renourishment of beaches, it's changed everything. The tides and the tide breaks are hitting the shoreline. There's not a natural protection out there like there used to be. But we have a system that we've been developing that uses LED lights. She was mentioning, thinking out the box. What I like to see, if you want the flag system to work better, put it out in the water to where they can see it. You got 40,000 people on the beach and everybody's looking at the water. The flag system behind them, we have a system that when you walk down the natural walkway, we got an indicator with an LED light and an emergency response button or an emergency camera system. If you get in trouble and you don't have a cell phone, the minute you touch that button on that walkway, and every access point would have these lights. And when you're walking down the walkway, the subliminal message would already be red, yellow, green, red, yellow, whatever. So now you're walking toward the beach, you're automatically getting that LED light telling you what the signal is. And if you get in trouble, most people call, and we've got 911 calls. I don't know where we're at. We don't know where we're at. We're just, we're in the middle of 40,000 people. We don't know where we're at. The minute they touch that light and open that light emergency box, it's like a fire alarm. EOC picks it up instantly. The signal goes to the gentleman on the beach on their iPads or smartphones. The system changes the lighting system, and this system has a verbal command. In other words, they can communicate with the people on the beach through this system on their iPad or their smartphone. They can change the system, part of the beach, all the beach, and the information coming from NOAA, from the shipping lane buoys, it's instant. It's already coming into their monitors. So there's several things. I mean, we could talk about this forever. We changed the law. Jimmy Petronas wrote the amendment.
Okay.
And we've changed the law, and it's changed, and now DEP, we can use the system on the
Thank you,
state
Mr.
of
White.
Florida.
Yep.
Thank you.
Appreciate you. Okay, we only have about 10, 15 minutes left in this meeting, so I'm going to cut public comment there. We're going to have to move public comment for this to the consent and non-agenda item comments for the next meeting, which will be starting here in just about 20 minutes. Wanted to give the council time to discuss our options. For one, I am really interested in seeing what we can do to add lifeguard to beaches. I think I've heard the great work the TDC's recently done in terms of finding an extra, what was it, a couple $100,000?
360.
360 to.
Yeah, an extra 360.
That would go to us.
That would go to Panama City Beach for this purpose. I think it would be worth looking into. We only have one taker for our public-private partnership, and that's because we asked them to fund 100%, including capital. Maybe we could consider looking at, subsidizing that public-private partnership, or looking at, taking some of the more public beach accesses and providing a lifeguarded beach there. It won't do the entire island, but I think that would be a nice way to expand that money. But I'll let the rest of the council go through comments. We'll try to maybe see if we can fit 2 rounds in.
Sure. Yeah,
All right,
absolutely.
all right. You want to just start with Mary?
Sure, I like both of your ideas. I think if we covered the capital cost for setting up a lifeguard at a resort, that would save them some money, but then they would still be paying the salary for the personnel that would be stationed there. And perhaps we look at the beach access and we pick some out and we make those lifeguarded beaches, but still have rovers. I wouldn't want to take away from having those rovers because I think those are very important. But I think those are 2 really good ideas.
Yep. Thank you, Councilmember. Councilman Richardson.
I agree with you. I think those are both great ideas. But what I'm hearing, and this is something that's kept me up at night with people drowning, since I've worked on this beach since I was 14 years old, literally put myself through college, working in the sand behind Calypso, and nobody ever drowned on that beach while I was there for 7 years. And the reason is because I cared enough to tell people and take preventative action. So I've been meeting with beach service representatives, Adrius Pender, James Bott, Jeff Jones, some other vendors up and down the beach. And in the county, I think we have 75 to 100 vendors. And I've met with Dan Rowe at the TDC several times regarding maybe a beach ambassador program where we can utilize boots on the ground. They are not lifeguard certified. I'm not expecting them to be. But if I can get 100 people with boots on the ground telling people it's dangerous to get in the water and be a walking, talking billboard for our city, I want to do that. I want to utilize those resources. They can go. I think they're going to be more in tune to listen to a guy that swept their chairs off, that's adjusted their wife's umbrella, that's taking great care of their kids. Hey, look, I want you to come back next year. I look at what we do at Holiday Inn Resort. We didn't make the list. We're not on the heat map. We do have lifeguards that are there. We do not advertise them as lifeguards, and we do not require them to go in the water after anybody. We have not gone in the water but one time in the last 3 years after an individual, because we take preventative action and we care for those individuals that are going down there. So what I'm recommending, I don't want to spend this money that we just got for any of those purposes. I like the mayor's idea to spend that money on subsidizing those programs. I think that's great. But the good thing about this program is we can use TDC marketing dollars to do that, which is not going to affect the life safety money that's coming. This is a walking, talking billboard that's in people's face every day, and those people don't drive off. Director Paul, I'm sure when you drive by and you give those preventative actions and it's a double red flag, as soon as your truck's out of sight, I see it all the time. As soon as it's out of sight, they're back in the water. This person is stationary. He's subject to those beaches. He's right there all the time. I'd like to see us take some time to be able to implement a beach ambassador program where the TDC pays those individuals to help us market our beaches. It ups the level of service for residents, tourists, everybody that visits our beaches. It gives them an opportunity to feel safe and understand. Some people, I hear people all the time, I walk the floors of my building all the time, look out and say, oh, still double red flag. So they do see it, and that system does work, but it's a lot more effective when you're communicating it. And if I can get 100 more people in the county, in Bay County, telling people and helping you guys, and I think you had a number on your slide that was, you had 172,051 preventative actions. That's a lot of actions. And how many people do you have on your staff? 9? 5?
Including me.
How many including you?
9.
9 people. If I can give you 100 more in the county, I can get a lot more preventative actions. They're not lifeguards, again, they're not lifeguards. I worked on the beach, we had to be lifeguard certified back in the day. But I want to collect all these guys together, and they're willing to do it. Adrius is willing to do it.
So we're running a little.
I'm so sorry, but it's something I'm passionate about and something I'd like to see done. I really do. And we don't have to use the dollars for that. Marketing dollars it is, so if that's something you guys are interested in, I think it's a great idea. Also like to remove restrictions on double red flags where they can go across property lines. We got ATVs that we can use, and we have jet skis that we can use. Let's let these guys cross property lines if it's an ability for them to be able to make a preventative action and save a life.
Thank you, Councilman.
Thank you.
Councilman Castle?
I love Ethan's idea and support that 110%, and using new money, marketing money. It'd probably be a lot more money than what we're getting, so, and getting a lot more bodies. And I also love the Rotary's idea of putting those rescue tubes down there. I also was a lifeguard. I started my career as a city lifeguard back in the 70s. And that's a tough job you guys are doing, very tough. And the ones that we were able to save, I remember, were the ones that I had what we called back then the $3 inflatable float. And by the time we got down there, it would take 5 to 10 minutes to get there. If they didn't have some type of flotation device with them, it was a recovery effort at that time. It wasn't saving anybody. But I remember one particular day, I didn't count them when we got down there, but I was just in awe at how many people were out there afterwards. It was over with. I think they said there were 17 people in one family were out there, had gotten trapped out there, 2 at a time, 5 at a time. It started with 2 kids, and they all went in, and there was a real bad rip right there behind the Gulf Crest. And so they had 5 or 6 of those different colored air mattresses, and this was back in the late 70s. And so we took a rope to them. We had 300 feet of rope, and we got 2 or 3 times we got out there to them, and ended up getting them all in. 2 or 3 went to the hospital, but they survived. And we rescued them, but what saved those people was they had a flotation device, and the people that had the state of mind to get another float before they went in the water, because if you ever go in the water after somebody, don't go without some type of flotation device. But what I'm going to propose, and I talked to Cole about it, and it's out of the box, like Mary was saying. I propose that on a single red flag day, that we require the swimmers, the people going in the Gulf, to have some type of flotation device. I've been watching that, like Darrell said, I watch them go down there, they have it with them. You know, they have boogie boards, they have surfboards, they have floats, they have noodles. Any of those things will keep people alive long enough, if they get caught in one, till somebody can get there and not do a recovery. It can be a happy ending if they have some type of flotation device. And that's thinking way outside the box, because I don't know if Cole's been able to find any other city that does that. But over the years, people have asked me, just make them wear life jackets. Nobody will die. And I said, well, it's not that easy. People don't want to come to the beach and wear a life jacket. But that's the truth. If they would, then nobody would drown. But anyhow, I do think that that's worth trying, and it may not work, but we got to do something. Everybody says you got to do something. We're trying to get more lifeguards, and TDC is stepping up with more money, which is great, and this ambassador program, and the Rotary, the public, but we need to do something. And I don't know, I just direct the council at this point to have some dialogue about it, but I don't even know if we could do that. But that would be my suggestion. We're kind of at a point where we need to do something.
Yeah, Councilman, I was going to let everyone talk and then kind of give direction, if that works. Vice Mayor, do you think you can do it in 2 minutes?
I'll be really quick.
Okay.
I mean,
Let's
I
try.
think we've come up with some good ideas. We definitely get with the TDC as well, I think maybe on the tubes. I've been looking at some AI software called that can complement lifeguarding. And I, like Councilman Casto said, and register, I like the ambassador program. It can definitely free up some of the lifeguards to do more rescue and not have to be the preventative nature if we've got 100 extra people out there doing it. So that's it.
Okay. I heard about 5 ideas. Let me summarize them. One is investigating a subsidized program, including maybe potentially subsidizing capital costs. I personally would also like to just see subsidizing the actual lifeguards for creating lifeguarded beaches, enhancing our public-private partnership. The Beach Ambassador Program, investigating if there's any ordinances or anything we need to do there. I think the funding indicated was the funding was going to mostly come from TDC there, so.
Absolutely.
Okay, so if there's anything we need to do from a city ordinance side there. Rescue tubes, I think it would be great to work with Rotary, and I think a few people here were interested in rescue tubes. What are the options in terms of mounting? What does it cost? Can we have partnerships there? That's the third one. Councilman Casto's idea on flotation devices, requiring flotation devices on single reds. Single reds, in the information we got, we had 14 cases of drownings on single reds, more than double reds at this point. So I think that makes sense to at least investigate that. And then finally, Vice Mayor Jarman's AI software.
Yeah, I'm waiting for phone calls back, so.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so does it make sense to get options on those 5?
And could we also get more information from this gentleman over here?
Yeah, Mr. White?
Yes,
Okay, and so.
Mr. White.
So those 5 plus, Drew, if you could reach out to Mr. White and have him talk to Chief Morgan. All right? Did we make it? I think we made it.
I think we did.
Okay. The public comment I know a lot of you wanted to do public comment on this beach safety. Just do it at the next meeting, which is going to start here in about 5 minutes. Okay? That's it.
All right.
This meeting's adjourned.
Can you give Mr. White and get his information?